All right, hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Friday, February 7th, 2025, 1/7/25 if you're keeping a journal. And I hope you are, because we're living in one of the most extraordinary periods of time ever. And one of my biggest regrets is not having started keeping a journal many, many years ago. February 7th, today, is National Wear Red Day, established to help bring attention to heart disease and the importance of heart health. On the food calendar, today is also National Fettuccine Alfredo Day, which is ironic or funny because fettuccine Alfredo definitely ain't heart healthy, my friend, along with most of the other stuff that you will likely be eating on Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday, Chiefs, Eagles, New Orleans, which I hope is better than that NFL honors show last night. Wow. I mean, if they wanted it to be a comedy, right? Nothing against Snoop, but they should have brought in Kevin Hart. I mean, it's not like they can't afford it. And congratulations to Jacksonville Jaguars defensive end Eric Armstead, the Walter Payton Man of the Year winner for his Armstead Academic Project that supports childhood education. And quarterback Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills won the MVP. President Trump, as you likely know, will be in New Orleans this weekend for the Super Bowl. Florida Today, Reddit, and others reporting this morning that President Trump will also be attending next week's Daytona 500. I was there when he attended the 500 in 2020. You may remember the presidential motorcade did a lap around the track. It was unbelievable. We'll talk more about that next week. But the big story this week continues to be the Super Bowl and the exposing of USAID. Let's start it off with Rob Schmitt.
New tonight, USAID, the agency tasked with handing out your money all over the world, is being gutted as we speak after being exposed by Elon Musk and Doge. Secretary Rubio of the State Department cutting the USAID staffing from 14,000 down to 294. 14,000 to 294. The kind of radical cuts Americans have pleaded for all over our government is happening right now at USAID. For years, as the U.S. government has grown like a cancerous tumor and saddled us with tremendous debt, people have asked to see movement like this. Washington never wanted to do anything to itself. They do now. There's a new administration in town, and the fury in Washington right now is music to Americans' ears. Trump has enraged the D.C. bureaucracy, which thought it could do anything it wanted with all of our money and grow as big as it wanted and waste as much as it wanted. Not anymore. A populist government exposing all the dark corners of our massive, overfunded $6 trillion U.S. government. And as Elon Musk and Doge rifle through all of their secrets, the machine itself is melting down. This threat is truly existential for the American left, as we know. We're seeing just how manufactured their politics is. For it to thrive, they embezzle your money and force spread their radical ideologies here domestically as well as all over the world. The latter we're seeing right now with USAID. That's essentially the gist of the scam, right? The same method that was used to radicalize our own country is what they're doing. And they certainly did it here as well. The trans agenda, BLM, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that was organic? No. It was just dark blue money being funded, piped in to force everybody to think that that's how this country is when it's not. There was nothing authentic about the grip that the left had on this country, nothing at all. It was all a house of cards propped up by very dark money. It was all fabricated. And with their approval rating right now in the dumpster, all the left can do is scream and cry. They are losing it as one of the most powerful and effective men in the world exposes one of their most powerful grifts.
Elon Musk has got to go.
I'm here to simply say that Elon Musk, you're fired. Nobody elected Elon Musk to be president, but he has his grimy hands all over our administration.
This is a hostile takeover of our federal system.
They are working for Elon Musk and doing the bidding of an unelected, unaccountable, out of control billionaire puppet master.
You mad, bro? You seem a little mad. They are in meltdown mode. Take a look at this next one here. The artwork behind Congressman Mark Pocan from Wisconsin. Take a look at this as he slams the most brilliant man in the world for investigating our government.
Shutting down federal agencies won't lower the cost of groceries one dime, but it sets up a gigantic tax break for Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Okay, Mark. With the picture of Elon stealing an old lady's purse as Trump cheers in the background. The desperation, the full throttle desperation. It's so good. They have got to find a way to disqualify everything that Doge is finding. They're scrambling to crush Elon Musk's credibility, like a defense attorney looking for any way to discredit the key witness to a crime. I got to get rid of this witness. I got to make them seem like they're not telling the truth. Don't pretend this isn't fun to watch, because it is fun. It's so satisfying to watch. The same people who cheered and celebrated right here with their masks on as they approved 80,000 IRS agents to attack Americans with the financial version of a rectal exam, those same people are now screaming threat to democracy as they are audited. It's so good.
That is Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Before I played that, I had listened to comments from Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana on X, who said USAID had 10,000 employees, and I was going to say, wow, I didn't know they had 10,000 employees. But Rob just said 14,000, and the State Department, now run by Secretary Rubio, is cutting that number down to around 300. Rob also spoke with counselor to the president, Alina Habba.
And right. I know you're fairly new to the political game, and I've never been in politics myself, but how fun is it to watch all of these politicians losing it as the government gets a massive audit from Elon Musk? The same people that were so enthralled to give us 80,000 more IRS agents to harass all of us, they get an audit and they're losing their mind. They're screaming all day long.
Yeah, I don't know if they didn't get the memo on November 5th, but America said we're not buying it. We're not buying it, Chuck. We're not buying it from the 4 or now the 3. We don't really care if you want to scream and yell and you want to say we're horrible white supremacists because we want to save money for Americans so we can lower your taxes and so we can do some good and get the economy in shape. We don't care, and America didn't care. On November 5th, what they said was, we don't buy it. We call BS. And I think that it's very fun to watch. In some regard, it's sad to watch. I think that some of the language that they're saying is incredibly concerning for me, to be honest, on a serious level. People that screamed insurrectionist are now saying we are going to war. We've got people like Tish James in New York instructing hospitals to evade an executive order and saying it's the state that will say it and you're going to lose federal funding, but you have to continue transgender mutilation. It's seriously disturbing. The TDS, I don't even know. I think we should come up with some new name for it now that we've won. But it's sick. And they don't care about America, that's for sure. They care about, having a TV moment, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it really proves just how, I think it proves how flimsy, today's leftism is, that it has to be fabricated by government money, and kind of imposed in these countries as that they're trying to, I guess, destabilize conservative nations. We heard some things, from the leader of Hungary about what USAID has done to his country, trying to push a different politic in his country away from him. I mean, this is what our foreign policy money is doing. Yeah. I mean, that's really sick. I want to get to one final thing before I let you go. Trump had 2 national prayer breakfast speeches this morning. He really had some amazing things that he said in both of these speeches. I think this was my favorite soundbite of the morning. Take a listen.
After years of decline, Americans are reasserting our true identity as a people ordained by God to be the freest and most exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. But we weren't that for 4 years. I don't believe we were. And we're getting there very soon, very quickly. I'll be able to say it, and we'll be able to say it again.
The freest and most exceptional nation. We have been shamed by how great we are for a long time. That's over now.
Yeah, it's over. I was at the prayer breakfast, and it was my first time ever attending. And the president really spoke from an emotional place today. it was really amazing. After what he's gone through, I do believe he has a really strong bond with God, and he is bringing that into the White House and into America. And he actually spoke a lot about bringing in the two parties to sit down. And he said at one point, if we could actually just sit down and work together, could you imagine what we could accomplish? And that was really, really something for me, for a man that's been persecuted so hard by the left and by the politicians sitting in that room. But he's been an amazing leader. And I think he's just his growth and with all the challenges that he's had, he's just tremendous. I'm really proud to be part of this administration.
Counselor to the president, Alina Habba, on Rob Schmitt Tonight. I played some of the president's prayer breakfast comments in yesterday's Newsmax Daily, if you missed it, as well as Greg Kelly's interview with former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio. Be sure to go back and listen to yesterday's edition if you missed it, or just go back and listen to it again. For more Doge derangement syndrome, this is Chris Salcedo.
America first loves our people. America last loves big government. We break through the noise in today's preamble. Here's Chuck Schumer tweeting out his focus. An unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government. Doge is not a real government agency. Doge has no authority to make spending decisions. Doge has no authority to shut programs down or to ignore federal laws. Doge's conduct cannot be allowed to stand, end quote. First, Elon Musk is performing an audit of the federal government. He's reporting his findings back to the White House, where the president will choose the appropriate actions. There's nothing wrong, unconstitutional, or illegal about it. But did you notice all Chuck could talk about was government, government, government? That's all these leftists care about.
What's happening right now is a hostile takeover of the U.S. government. There's no other way to describe it. It's happening clearly across our justice system, where just a few hours ago, a deadline passed for FBI employees to fill out a questionnaire detailing their involvement in January 6 cases. In other words, they were asked to fill out basically a loyalty test.
Right, right. Are you loyal to the law and the Constitution, or are you loyal to Democrats? You see, you can't be loyal to both, as the Democrat Party has arrayed themselves as the antithesis of the rule of law and the founding document. President Trump has his sights set on all government abuse and corruption. One of the most prolific and costly abusers is the den of vipers at the so-called Department of Education. To rein in another rogue agency, Trump has hired Linda McMahon.
I want her to put herself out of a job, education department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. And we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice. But in addition to that, I want the states to run schools. And I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
The president is right. Since Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education in 1979 as a political payoff with your money to the teachers' unions, America's education system has been in the sewer. Our nation taxes us the most and spends the most per pupil on GovEd, and that gets us last in the academic rankings of the industrialized nations, or close to last, depending on which metrics you're measuring. Why? Because the GovEd system is infected with leftists. When I asked this audience if America should abandon this loser GovEd system by kicking the feds out, an overwhelming number of you said yes. You love your kids, you love your grandkids, and this nation's children more than you love another corrupt, Democrat-infested, bloated, and failing government agency. Now, a few of you wanted to keep a smaller GovEd department in place. Tracy wrote to me, and here's what the note said in part, quote, I have been a special education teacher for 27 years, and I have a lot to say about the issue. I'm fine with giving control back to the states, except for the Department of Special Education for our children with disabilities. I taught in a blue state of California and know all too well that the federal money given to the state was pocketed by administrators for everything except our students. I think that the U.S. Department of Education under Linda McMahon should continue to manage and control how the federal funds are distributed and make administrators accountable so that the special needs students can once again benefit and progress, end quote. Now, Tracy, you may be right that as long as Linda McMahon runs a smaller department of GovEd, money might be spent wisely. But what happens in the next Democrat regime. You know, it reminds me of how we conservatives supported the Patriot Act. It may have been good in the hands of George W. Bush, though the jury's still out on that one. But look at what Obama did with it. It's the Salcedo Show axiom number 6, folks. It's best not to give government more power, lest it be abused. Because history proves me right. I know that government programs started with the best of intentions will always, always be used to harm our people by charlatans in big government.
Great to hear from Chris Salcedo again on the Newsmax Daily. Chris is the host of the Chris Salcedo Show, 4 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. We also haven't heard from Greta Van Susteren in a bit. Yesterday, she spoke with my friend and Florida Senator Rick Scott, a member of the Senate Budget Committee and a member of the Senate Doge Caucus.
But what are we going to do about USAID to the world? Because we use it both because we are extremely decent people helping people, but we also use it as leverage to try to help to make the world behave better.
Well, the way I look at what he's doing what he said he's going to do on the campaign. He was going to look at how we spend our money and make sure we spend it in the best interest of America. When I became governor of Florida back in January 2011, I actually did the exact same thing with the state budget. We went line by line, and we ended up with a purpose for every part of the budget. Every line of the budget, we had a purpose, 4,000 lines. If you look at what the president's doing, he's going through the budget and saying, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. How do we get a return, and how do we make sure the things we're investing in are actually doing what they said they're going to do? So I think he's doing the right thing. Marco Rubio on USAID, they're actually doing what what President Trump was elected to do.
Isn't it also saying, though, that Congress, both the Senate and House, has not been doing what it was elected to do because we do have so much bloat, have so much money unaccounted for. We don't even know where most of our money is going. So it is sort of dropped in the lap of this president to try to figure this out? Absolutely. I've been up here 6 years. The oversight of Congress is pathetic. So we've, in all of our committees, we've got to do a better job with oversight. The Democrats have been in charge for the last 4 years in the Senate, and when they're in charge, they won't do any oversight. So it's our responsibility to hold people accountable. No different than what happens to you in business. I'm a business guy. I had a board of directors. I had shareholders. They held me accountable. We have to do the exact same thing with the federal government, even if it's the same party, all right, as you are. You've got to say that might be great, but you've got to do your job. And what I've watched since I've been up here, nobody gets fired, nobody's held accountable. Nobody wants to look at how the money's being spent. That's got to change. All right. The next big issue is whether there's going to be a single bill having to do with the number of things the president wants to do, or it's going to be several bills. The House would like to do one bill, and that's what the president's been meeting about all day long today. And the Senate would like to break it down into several bills. So what's your thought on the debate right now over whether it's one bill or two bills? Or more? Well, I want to do whatever it's going to take to get the president's agenda accomplished. We've got to secure the border. We've got to continue. We've got to build our military. We've got to watch our spending. We've got to continue the Trump tax cuts. So we've got to do all these things. In the Senate, we're going to work on two bills right now. We'll be going to mark up next week in the Senate Budget Committee to do a bill that's focused on the border, focused on military spending to make sure we can do the things the president campaigned on. And then we'll do a separate bill in the Senate with regard to extending the Trump tax cuts. So that's what we're going to do. We'll see what the House wants to do, but I'm in for whatever it takes to get this done.
Senator Rick Scott, a member of the Doge Caucus, on the record with Greta Van Susteren. I'm not sure, honestly, what other senators are saying, but yes, one bill, two bills, three, whatever it takes to get it done, I totally agree. The one thing President Trump hasn't done yet that he said he would do on day one is end the war in Ukraine. And frankly, I'm not sure why this hasn't been more of a dust up about this from Democrats, but frankly, I'm not sure they really want to end the war in Ukraine. Wake Up America spoke about it this morning with Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director of Counterterrorism, Sebastian Gorka.
There's a report this morning out by Reuters that suggests a summit between Trump and Putin could happen in the next month or so. Reuters reporting staff discussions moving forward. Can you add anything to this from the White House?
All I'll say is General Kellogg is on the case. And this is going to happen sooner than anyone thinks. Why? Because President Trump has one priority in that benighted region, and that's to stop the bloodshed. The man who wrote The Art of the Deal is the only person that can bring closure to that dreadful, dreadful conflict. So I'm not going to, make news here. I'm sorry on Newsmax, but it's going to happen sooner or later, and President Trump will seal the deal to stop the bloodshed.
So sticking with the art of the deal, I'm questioning, obviously you and I have done this for a very long time together. I'm questioning whether the president's recent announcement about Gaza, making it the Riviera of the Middle East, is part of the art of the deal. Not that it does not need to be rehabilitated and rebuilt, but also laying out new terms so you can get the Middle East, the rest of the world together, going, we got to come together and do something, because if not, he'll probably do this on his own. What do you think of that?
So, look, the president. This is how the president functions. When he sees something that isn't working, he doesn't look at the Overton window, the aperture through which things are permissible to be discussed. He takes a sledgehammer, not just to the Overton window, but to the window frame, the walls around it, and the roof above it. He throws something out there to do what? To get people talking. Look at these pictures. Look at these pictures, Mark. The idea that this is going to be an easy fix by business as usual is insanity. So whether it's Greenland, whether it's Gaza, whether it's everything we're doing, deporting illegals out of the country, the president spins up a relevant discussion to say, hey guys, business as usual is not going to cut it. That's exactly how he brought us the Abraham Accords, and that's exactly how he's going to help stabilize the Middle East right now.
I recall this going on maybe a century ago or so. It was called the Marshall Plan, where the United States rebuilt basically an area where we helped to level it.
Yeah, I don't think the Marshall analogy is completely apposite here. Why? Because that was billions of US dollars converted to today's currency. What he's doing, and this is the expectation, everything we do in my domain, counterterrorism, he wants partners to step up to the plate. If you don't like what's happening in Gaza, if you've got a problem with the future of the people in the region, hey, don't expect America to solve it all. Step up to the plate. Remember, you know this, Mark, America first does not mean America alone. The president isn't an isolationist. He is not. But he expects allies, he expects partners to do their part. So this statement during the press conference with Bibi is a message to everyone in the region, in Europe and elsewhere. Hey, do you care about the future of that part of the world? Well, you know what? You should be part of the solution, not just complaining and part of the problem.
Speaking of partners, it seems like you and the president need one with a director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She and RFK Jr. now headed to the full Senate. I mean, look, the Democrats are going to play their games. They're going to try to delay. They can't really derail this nomination, either of them.
Why can't they do that? Very simply, you know it. You're a political operator. The triple trifecta, not just the House, not just the Senate, the popular vote. 77 million Americans said, we want the president back. And as such, the president gets his team. Yesterday, I was out at the National Counterterrorism Center with Joe Kent, the incoming director, who's functioning as a chief of staff for the director of national intelligence for Tulsi Gabbard, the nominee position. These are the people who are going to make America safe. We want people who shake up the system. Look at everybody out there, whether it's Mike Waltz, first Green Beret, first congressman to be national security advisor, whether it's Pam Bondi. I was here for the swearing in. What was it, 2 days ago, just a day ago or something? Look at Marco Rubio. We want people who understand this stinking city has to be shook up in the interests of who? All Americans, whether you voted for the president or not, he wants you to be safe and he wants you to prosper. That's why he gets his team, because 77 million Americans have said so.
The great Sebastian Gorka, former Newsmax host and now deputy assistant to the president and senior director of counterterrorism for the Trump administration. If you are not aware of it, the Gorka reality check, Sundays at 8 p.m. on Newsmax, has been replaced with The Savage Nation, hosted by Michael Savage. Gorka cannot do the show with his new responsibilities in the White House, obviously. If you are not, for some reason, familiar with Michael Savage, you absolutely want to check out Savage Nation. Let's look at some of the other headlines today. A federal judge is blocking President Trump's move to end birthright citizenship. Judge John Kuhnauer in Seattle.
There are moments in the world's history when people look back and ask, where were the lawyers? Where were the judges? In these moments, the rule of law becomes especially vulnerable. I refuse to let that beacon go dark today.
The Trump administration says it will appeal the ruling, of course. Another federal judge has put a pause on the administration's buyout of those federal workers, setting a hearing for Monday. More than 60,000 federal workers have taken up the offer from the Department of Government Efficiency to take a buyout, so we'll see what happens in Monday's hearing. And Federal Communications Commission Chair Brandon Carr is looking into San Francisco news radio station KCBS, 7:40 a.m., for revealing locations of undercover ICE vehicles and undercover ICE agents that were conducting deportation operations live, covering it live. KCBS is obviously owned by CBS Radio, except CBS Radio doesn't exist anymore. All of its radio stations are owned and operated by a company called Odyssey, whose majority owner is left-wing activist billionaire George Soros. That's right. Carr also criticized the FCC for approving the Soros purchase of Odyssey last year when the company was in bankruptcy. He essentially saved the company from bankruptcy. Soros buying them likely saved a lot of jobs, some of whom I worked with personally, some of whom may be friends, so I give him credit for that. But in case you didn't know, some of whom I worked with personally, some of whom may be friends, so I give him credit for that. But in case you didn't know, the country's largest radio companies with news stations and conservative news talk stations all over the country is owned by George Soros. And lastly, Trump envoy Rick Grenell and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin are touring California wildfire damage. This comes after Governor Gavin Newsom met with Trump earlier this week to ask for relief money.
Turning attention now to California. Yesterday, the state's Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom, met with President Trump regarding federal assistance for the catastrophic wildfires there.
And that's right. Today, disaster coordinator Ambassador Rick Grenell is touring the fire damage in Los Angeles with newly minted EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. And that is where we find our California correspondent, Heather Myers, who has the story and is embedded with those gentlemen. Heather, I can only imagine the sights that you are seeing there.
Yeah, in fact, you can probably see right behind me the devastation here in the Palisades area. I'm going to flip the camera around because that meeting that you were just talking about, it's taking place here as we speak. And we do have that newly minted administrator of the EPA, Lee Zeldin, here on scene. If you can see through this crowd here a little bit, there you see Rick Grenell standing there in the tan jacket. And then right here on the other side, you might be able to see LA Mayor Karen Bass is among the people that are standing here in the middle of a burned out street. That structure that you see right behind them, that is the only home that is still standing in this neighborhood. There are a number of neighbors here as well, and they are wondering what happens next. Phase 1 is underway. That's where the EPA comes in and removes the hazmat material that are in many of these homes, including things like lithium-ion batteries from electric cars, also paint canisters, oil, cleaning products, and there's an opportunity for asbestos in many of these homes as well. So right now they are talking about how does phase 1 work? What happens when your home is cleared in phase 1? Can phase 2, which is going to be the debris removal, then begin? So this is what's happening out here live here in the Palisades. We will continue to monitor this meeting and bring you the very latest, including interviews with Rick Grenell and with Mr. Lee Zeldin. That's still to come.
That's Newsmax correspondent Heather Myers in Los Angeles. Today's jobs report showing only 143,000 jobs being added to the economy in the month of January. The unemployment rate fell from 4.1% to 4%. On Wall Street, stock markets opened in the green, but not by much. Shares of Amazon are down after comments at the company made in its earnings call. Apparently, they're going to invest $100 billion in AI, and investors might not be that happy about that. However, Amazon reported a record $187.8 billion in revenue for the quarter, nearly $188 billion in 3 months and surpassed Walmart's quarterly revenue for the first time ever. Bitcoin at the time of this recording was back up to $100,000 exactly. XRP was up 19 cents. Stay up to date on all of the news and breaking developments today and throughout the entire weekend on Newsmax, N2, and Newsmax.com. Beginning each and every day with Wake Up America, including Wake Up America Weekend Edition, followed by Saturday and Sunday Report, America Right Now, Saturday and Sunday Agenda, Nancy Brinker, Michael Savage on Sunday, as I mentioned, and much, much more. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Continue to share it with friends, family, and anyone else. Enjoy your weekend. Let's go Eagles, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.